Right. So I'm going to start since it should be at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to start at 9 o'clock. I'm trying to finish as long as my slide end. Right. So currently we have roughly about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I was informed by the admin that there are roughly about 30 students, but it's okay. We have roughly about 12, 13 students, okay? So it should be okay. I mean, this is just a sharing session between you, right? I think you have gone through your maybe data collections, okay? So I'm not going to talk about from the process of doing your research from A to Z, okay? But I'm just want to share with you about your data collections and also um, um, data analysis, okay? Right, but not in detail on data analysis because there will be, I think, other series of programs or talk given by the so-called expert in that particular areas. But I'm just going to give you some ideas that what and how actually it can be done. Okay, right. Okay, sharing you the slide. Okay, you tell me that if you can see my slide. Okay, can you see my slide? I need someone to talk so that I can hear you, okay?
Oh, I can see it.
Can you see my slide, honey? Azlina.
Cannot see it.
I can't hear. I can't hear. I'm not sure that the line is good or not, okay? So, but I hope that you can see my slide. Yeah?
Okay, it's clear.
All right. So, before I start my presentations, okay, so normally I will first introduce myself. I think most of you don't know me, okay, even though that I'm in the universities because I'm not teaching a master's degrees at the moment, and also, I mean, because I'm from different areas that most of the student did, okay, which is basically management, entrepreneurship, marketing, okay. All right, my name is Rosle. You can call me Rosle, okay? So I've been with the university quite some times, okay? I'm a senior lecturer in financial management banking programs, okay? So my research basically based on financial management. And lately, I engage with the project with other universities, okay? What we did basically is try to study about knowledge transfer programs, okay? So the projects ended last year's, okay? So maybe I can share with you the difficulties, especially the difficulties of getting data from respondents, okay? Because in our case, our respondents is those a researcher that getting the grant, okay? I mean, is a university professors, okay? From all public and private universities. So it's quite difficult to get their feedback, especially once the project is completed, okay? But I will tell you from time to time, okay? So I'm attached with the Faculty of Business and Economic and Accountancy, but due to COVID, so I came only twice a week to the office. I think same goes with you, right? So that's especially for the first year students. So it's kind of we never meet each other, all right, for the past 1 year, all right. Hopefully that this pandemic over by middle of this year, okay, so that we can go to the college, okay. All right, that's my number and that's my emails, okay, university's emails. I mean, you can contact me, okay, if you have anything, but first you have to talk with your supervisors first, okay. But yeah, so okay, all right. For the past few years, I've been attending a lot of conferences, okay. Um, in America, right? Um, yeah, I have to cancel my conference in Budapest, okay, due to the pandemic, everything is canceled. But for the past few years, okay, I've been attending and meeting many people, okay, try to understand methodology, especially, okay, trying to learn from expert professors. Okay, I'm still learning, okay? So we are still learning, and I'm also still learning. So what I'm going to do today, just to share that what I have, okay, might not be a full thing that you need to know, okay, but because not all that I have maybe is not complete, okay, but I'm still learning, all right. So I have attended many conferences in New York, okay, Boston, um, Montreal, Toronto, even Mexico, okay. So you see it, Las Vegas, University of I can't remember, UNLC, ULV, and some conferences in Auckland, okay, New Zealand, okay. So the last 2 years I went to Prague, so, okay, to attend meeting some schools there also. So it's a very fruitful session to learn, to study, to learn, to understand their research, especially in the areas of business, okay, which is not specifically only for finance, but I want to know that new thing that happening in the world. So that's why I attended most of my conferences. I went to overseas, okay, to get new thing, okay, that I can share with the students, okay. All right. Today, what I'm going to share with you basically is try to share with you the journey of data collection to data analysis. So I believe that students sometimes have a difficulties on collecting data, especially related to their studies. Okay, so you can collect data anyway, but the question is that whether the data is appropriate or accurate for your studies. Okay, some student might just collect the data, but will end up with when they analyze the data don't have any meaningful to their research. Okay, all right. So my passion basically is hiking. Okay, so I like hiking. I hike mountain. Okay, that I feel by hiking, I feel that I can release my stress. All right. So I hike in Indonesia mountains and yeah, Indonesian mountain and Malaysia. Okay, so except last year we couldn't go hiking because of pandemic. So every activities have every activities that need to be stopped during the pandemic. Okay, so hopefully end of this year or next year we will start again my routine, which is hiking and traveling. Okay. So, okay. So the topic that I'm going to discuss with you or to share with you basically is the journey of data collection to data analysis. Why I picked when I was asked by Miss Elizabeth, okay, would you mind to spend maybe 1 hour, 2 hours to share with the students? I said, okay, so what the topic? So I'm just trying to figure out, okay, that most probably that student might have a difficulties, especially on data analysis. And even though that, because it's interrelated, okay? When you have a good data, then basically you're going to have a good data analysis, okay? But the problem is that sometimes students can collect a good data, but end up with, they don't know what type of analysis that they have to do, because there will be a lot of analysis method that you can do, right? Besides regressions, okay, some students only regression for the rest of their studies, but they have a lot of methods, a lot of software that you can use, okay, from SPSS to Smart PL, and from the Smart PLS to any programming like R statistics, okay. So all these things that you can learn, but it's just a matter that which one, okay. Sometimes if your analysis is so complicated until you yourself don't understand, it's no point to, okay. So it should be understandable by the researcher, and it should be when you deliver the result, the reviewers or the readers should be able to understand what you are actually to convey. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. Okay, in my slide. Okay, so I think most of the students, especially PhD students, master students by research or by coursework, okay, so actually gone through all these things, right? So I think you, before you embark your study, intend to do your studies in PhD or masters by research, you must have a research ideas first, right? You cannot just simply go to the university, okay, I want to apply, I want to do research. So normally you will be discussing with your supervisors, prospect supervisors, that what you want to do, right? And then your supervisors will ask you to read about literature review on some student. They still don't know that where to get the literature review, okay? So they thought that literature review can be just by reading newspapers, okay? But which is not, okay? It should be through journals. And then from that, they tried to come up with the theoretical problem statements, okay? To figure out the issues, okay? Try to get the gap in the theories that they want to do. So if it is an applied research, so normally they will look into the organization, the issues in the organization into pictures, okay, by looking back into the literature reviews, and then can it be done or not, okay? And then after that, they will start with the research objective to operationalize whether can it be studied or not, okay? So that's the important thing until they come up with the research design. So this is the process that normally postgraduate student will follow. Okay, I mean, this is the steps. But what I'm going to talk today basically on data collection. Okay, but even on data collection, basically we have two, right? One, some student might have to do research based on qualitative, and the other one may be on the quantitative, and maybe some student want to combine this qualitative and the quantitative together, right? Which is, they call it a mixed method. Okay, but my concentration today basically is on quantitative, okay? Because qualitative is not, I'm not expert in the quantitative also, but most of my research basically based on the quantitative method rather than the qualitative, okay? Qualitative, I think we got numbers of lecturers in the faculties that doing their research on the qualitative, okay? But I will tell you some difference between qualitative and quantitative later on, okay? And then if you still don't have anything to do with what type of data, that maybe you can decide on that depending also on your research, okay? And then after that, you have the empirical findings once you have the data, and then you interpret the result, and then you look back into the literature review that you refer. Does your study as compared with the what do you call this, the previous studies, is there any similarities or is it contradictory, okay? Because that's very important, because you must remember, if you have data, I mean, sorry, use questionnaire from a different countries, for example, US. Most of us referring to US or UKs, okay, or Europe's, okay, and then we try to apply to our countries, okay, using a different set of still humans, but different in terms of cultures, different in terms of perception. So the result might be a bit different as what you expect compared with the US, okay, or in other studies in the world. Okay, that's the most important thing. That's why students are encouraged, even though that their research question, their research, questionnaires is already being widely used in the academic area, but they are still required to do a pilot studies. Okay? That is the most important thing. Why? Because not everybody, because you must remember, you are not the one that answering the question. I mean, in your questionnaires, right? The person that answering the question is your respondent. So your respondent must understand what you want to deliver, what you want, okay? So some researcher thought that by using a bombastic word, okay, in their questionnaire, make it, your research is a high quality, I mean, your question is a high quality one. Sometimes it's not necessary, okay? Why? Because you must go back that who is going to answer your question. That is the most important thing, right? Okay, so so this is the research process that normally every student or every postgraduate, every researchers will follow, okay? Research idea until its conclusion, or maybe that particular research can be generalized to certain organizations, for example, okay? So that's basic process. All right. So this is basically with regard to your research, okay? When we talk about data, either you are go to the qualitative or a quantitative research, okay? But here I give you some differences between the qualitative and quantitative. But of course that throughout my lectures, I will talk about quantitative research, okay, because I'm going to introduce you some method known as SPS. I'm not going to do PLS, okay, because there will be other professors will talk solely on PLS methods, okay. So nowadays that most of them using a smart PLS, okay, because it's a structured equation modeling, okay. But SPSS is still valid, okay, and most research that I've read, okay, still use SPSS as a way of interpreting the result, okay. All right, so this is some differences. If you look at that, there are some differences between the qualitative and the quantitative methods, okay. So basically, when I talk about quantity, so it deals with numbers, okay? Quality, it deals with tax, okay. And sample size that we normally use for the quantitative will be large, okay. So more than maybe 100, 200, because some student might get 300 depending on the population, right? And of course that on the qualitative research, you don't require that big numbers, okay? Sufficient enough to have a small numbers because you're going to do some thematic interpretations, you have to describe what the respondent, but the quality of respondent is very, very important. You couldn't just simply pick who you like. The person must be a person that your real samples, okay, in your studies, okay. And then in the quantitative, basically what we do, we analyze the data, all right, whereby that in the qualitative you interpret the text, okay, do the interpretation and go back to the theories, okay, looking back that what are the theme, for example, of that particular research, okay, and then end up with, we in the quantitative, because we use large sample from the population, we normally do a hypothesis. And most of the time that when we do surveys, okay, we do close-ended question. We use scale 1 to 5, 1 to 7, okay. And then on the qualitative research, basically they use open-ended questions, okay. That means let the person or let the respondent talk, okay. Then we're gonna transcribe the text or the sentence that given to us, okay. This is two different things that normally student will go on, okay, on whether it's a qualitative or quantitative. And some student nowadays, there will be a mixed method also, okay. Between qualitative, they try to get the quantitative data first, and then after that they try to apply that in the quantitative setting, okay. As for me, right, in the past, I just do quantitative research rather than a qualitative research. Even though in our grant, okay, the KPT grant, we did quantitative from the quantitative ideas, okay, that we got from the respondent. Then we test the we set up the questionnaire and we test it to the respondent. Okay, it can be done too, but it will be if 3 years maybe is okay, but for I'm not sure. But if let's say for master's degrees, okay, master's by research within 2 years, so my it's a bit. You can still do it, but maybe you need some time to think about that. Okay. Type of data collection that we have, okay, so you must remember, if you're in the social sciences, even though it can be categorized into two, students come from, for example, banking, finance, accounting, economics. Normally what they do, they will end up with the secondary data most of the times. Okay? That means they will use a secondary data, analyze the data from the financial report, from the sales reports, from the Bursa report, the stock exchange, currency exchange, okay, all this sort of thing is data available that you can just get. There are a lot of sources, okay, that you can get that. We have Bloomberg, Thomson Bankers, a lot of data providers. They need our money, okay. We pay, they give us the data, okay. And then there are very, what do you call that, well-known data providers, okay, like Bloomberg, for example. You can get data from Bloomberg, but you have to subscribe them first, okay. You can just simply get the free data. But in the UMS, we have subscribed the Bloomberg, so you can get the data from Bloomberg, okay. hopefully when the library open, okay, after this pandemic, you can definitely get the data. But we don't have any data streams. Okay, data stream is only available at UITM. I think you can request from the libraries to their libraries, okay, to get the data. I think, I'm not sure. All right. So the secondary data again is basically most of the time is used by finance background, economics, accountings. Okay. So, but as for social science, other social sciences, for example, marketing students, okay, entrepreneurship. So most of the time that they will use primary data collection methods. Okay. So the most famous one is the surveys. Okay. So most of them use survey if they are embarking quantitative research, and most probably that those students that doing qualitative, they will do interview and focus group. Okay, because focus group normally you don't require many people to be in a focus group. Okay, because the same question, definitely they will have a protocol questioning protocol that what they will ask the respondent. Okay, that's basically that most of the student is using. Okay, and then I still remember time when the examiner asked the student either are you using a probabilistic sampling or non-probabilistic sampling. Students are unable to answer that. Okay, it's just in the statistics books. Okay, what is probabilistic sampling? But they know that what they are doing actually, they are doing convenience sampling. For marketing especially, they will do, most of the time they will do convenience sampling. And but for those people that study in organizational, meaning to say that if let's say they study about, let's say for example, job satisfaction in the government, let's say in the federal office. Okay, so basically instead of doing convenience, they will use maybe random sampling or systematic samplings. Okay, because this is much more, okay, right? So random, when we said random, random means there is opportunity of your population to be chosen as a sample, right? So how they do it, there will be a lot of ways. Okay, so so something with the stratified, something with the cluster sampling. I think this one you have learned during your methodology class. Okay, when you first come to the universities, right? And then they give you the methodology class. So basically they will introduce you with the probability sampling or non-probabilistic samplings. Okay, so a judgment sampling, normally known also as purposive. You purposely need this people. Snowball, widely used, okay, because snowball, the way they do it, you know one person, and then you get a recommendation of this person who's going to be the next of your respondent, because they better than you. Okay, do you understand that? That means, for example, if I choose Gunasegaran, okay, so I interview you, and then ask you who else is actually in your areas that I can interview. So he will give me the right person that who's going to be the next respondent. Okay, this is what he calls a snowballs. Okay? We have quota, but most of the marketing student, not all, okay, most of the marketing student throughout my experience will do convenience sampling. Why? Because let's say, for example, they want to study about perfumes, okay? Man preference on perfume, for example, okay? So it's very convenient that it's very difficult for you, a branded, you're talking about brand, okay? Brand. So it's very difficult for us to know that whether everybody will use perfume, okay? So what you should do, you just stand at any parks and stores that's selling perfume, and then you give a question, and you know that they're going to use the perfumes, okay? So this is a convenience, right? Convenience for you because you know that they're the person. But of course, that there are some drawback with samplings. Okay, sometimes it's biases. Okay, because I still remember last time when I teach statistics. Okay, and during master's degrees. Okay, when I asked the students, how do you get the data? Because some student, because this is not a thesis, it's just like a project papers. Okay, so what happened is that they will have only like 3 months to collect the data. I still remember that some of the students, instead of collect the right data, okay, they collect among themselves in the class, okay, which is not represent to what actually he's studying. So we might, as a student, we might end up to that, okay, but still remember this, okay. If you get wrong answer, wrong students, I mean wrong respondent, so you might end up with difficulties when you analyze your data. Your data is going to be here and there, okay, because it does not represent that what you actually want to study, okay. All right. And then, of course, that this is the famous method, survey method that normally the student did, okay? Interview, okay, either as a structured interview or unstructured interview. But most of the time that if you're doing a qualitative, basically you will do a structured interview using a protocol, okay? They will set up a question so that you will follow the question when you ask the same respondent so that you can have parallel answers so that it's easy for you when you do analyze it later. Or you can use the questionnaire. Okay, so this normally used. Okay, questionnaire can be used now online. Okay, monkey surveys. Okay, so either open-ended or closed-ended. Okay, so that's basically the questionnaire that. But most of the student normally they don't want to take hassle. They will do a closed-ended. Maybe one or two questions will be open-ended, especially when they want to conclude their research later on. Okay. And of course, other techniques such as telephone, SMS, okay, online surveys. Okay, online surveys nowadays is quite a numbers. Okay, even our student also doing online survey, and then it is much more appropriate nowadays, especially during the pandemic times. Okay, right. Okay, let's look into, okay, that's basically the ideas, okay? So even though that it seems easy, okay, it will take a while for you to understand this data collection. It's not easy. How many data that you should have, okay? I will tell you that what book that you should have later on, okay? I can give you the ebooks also on that book that you can just flip and read, because the book, I would say the book is good and easy to understand, okay, that I use, especially when you want to analyze your data and try to figure out that how many sample, what is the appropriate sample size that you should have, okay. So the book will tell you, because they have some guideline that collect how many sample that you should have, okay, what type of method that you should go about, okay, and then what test is appropriate. You have this kind of objective, and then what are the tests that appropriate with this kind of objective or the research questions in your research. Because I think most of us, okay, especially when you have working experience and then end up back go to the college studying, so the mathematical part is actually left behind already. Okay? You know, you have the ideas, you have the way of doing that, but when it comes to the analysis, some of the students feel that that is the difficulties part, I would say. Okay? Sometimes even some of the students feel that I want to hire someone to analyze my data, which it shouldn't be that way. Okay, that means you should learn, because during the Viva later on, you will be asked, okay, how you run the data, what is mean by the data, especially when it comes to the figures. Okay, so all these things you should know as a that's why it's a master's in your area or the PhD in your areas. Okay, all right. Of course that to come up with the questionnaire, but I will tell you later on, okay, bit by bit, okay, because normally most of the students that doing questionnaire based questions, okay, I mean research, so they don't create the question by themselves. Okay, so what they do is that they try to get the ideas from a different journal or different article they have read earlier in the literature review. Then from them, then they pick the appropriate one and then put it as their questionnaire. That's what the questionnaire that you use need to be weighted again using the pilot studies, or what. Of course there will be a lot of ways of doing that. It will take some time, okay? Because you must make sure that when you give your questionnaire to your respondent, possibly that there is no mistake, there is no, and then it's understandable by your respondent. Of course, you will understand as a researcher because you read a lot, but you must put yourself in the point of respondent that don't know nothing about your research. When they receive your questionnaire, they just read the first page that you are a PhD student or your master student, and then doing this research, and then end up with the first page that will be the question that they have to answer. Okay, that's what sometimes it's important that if, let's say, for example, you go and interview with your questionnaire, so it's much more better. But of course, there will be some biases, okay? because sometimes when you face to face, respondent is not going to tell you the truth, you know, because they feel that if you tell the truth, it's so inferior for them. If something which is sensitive question especially, so they tend to tell lies. Okay, they prefer, because they prefer to have you give them a questionnaire, and then they will answers in their time, and then they will answers accurately lah, hopefully. Okay, this what sometimes questioning can still be questions. Okay, I mean the data that we get from the respondents. Okay? If we pick not a right respondent, they might answer number 4, all number 4, and then that is the problem with your question. That is not useful. Understand? That's what we really need, to have a person that really be able to answer. So that will be represent of your sample. You might be surprised. Okay, let's say you distributing, let's say for example 500 questionnaire, and then 500 questionnaire, and then you're happy because you redistributed the questionnaire, but what will be the return, the response rate? Okay, very, very important. Okay, surprisingly, you did any doing some wake up call to the organization to look that, to call them, have you fill up the questionnaire, you know? So you will be end up with less than 5%, maybe less than 100, okay, or less than 50. Then it will be alarming to your research. You can't proceed with that, right? You need to have at least 200, 250. Okay, that's what you tell in your chapter 3, which is on data methodology, that okay, you distributed 300 and expected to get, based on the literature review, okay, you should get roughly, for example, 300 questionnaires, okay? But end up with you only have 10, 12, 15, okay, after waiting 3 months. It's what, this is the difficult part, the real difficult parts. Unless that, if you are the officers, you have the authority, and then you are doing in your organization, that's much more easier, isn't it? Compare with you do, for example, organizational, looking into different organization, because in your organization, maybe you know that who should be answering your questionnaires, and then they might be helping you anyway. But putting yourself that I want to study about the civil servant in Malaysia, for example, job satisfaction, and then you're going to put how many population that we have in the civil servants, all right? And then how many you need to distribute it to each department, to each ministry, and then you'll be surprising when it coming back. Because I myself, for example, if I receive a question, I'm going to put aside first, okay? Sometimes I forget that it's already past 1 month, okay, on my tables. So you can imagine that, you can imagine that you as a student, you'll be sad, right? I'm not answering your questionnaire. But we can expect that every respondent, every questionnaire that we distributed will be answered. Okay, some will be only answered half. Then it's gonna be like undi rosak lah. You know, you can't use that if it is half. Some they don't give the informations about their biodata. Their biodata basically. So there will be like the response rate. If you can get 30%, 40%, depending on how many questionnaires that you distributed, and then from that, how many usable questionnaires that you can use for your research. And then of course there will be some cleaning process that you need to do, okay, until you get a very solid, good questionnaire answered by your respondents. So that will be your happy moment now, but not yet to be analyzed. Okay. So that will take maybe 5 months, 6 months, or it can be even 1 year just to collect the data. Okay, because if you see times, okay, you register today, every week is just like 1 day nowadays. Okay, so if you don't start writing, okay, I will tell you later on. Okay, if you don't start writing bit by bit, okay, so you have you have to start somewhere. Okay, don't wait on moment tomorrow. Today I'm rest. Tomorrow, you know. Because the next tomorrow will be third day, fourth day, and it's 1 month, you know, I haven't done anything, isn't it? That's normally, and then you always communicate with your supervisors. Okay, I have a very good student last year that she forced us to communicate, you know. She forced, because we're quite busy, and then she always sending her work to us, okay, and then we have to review every week, you know, like twice a week, I think. Twice a week he will be sending the work every 2 weeks, and then we have to meet, okay. And then she completed her master's degrees within less than, yeah, I think GOT lah, 2 years, okay. And she come back to China already, and then she said that she want to come back to do PhD, which we said that, yeah, you're welcome, okay. We really need that kind. I will show you the student letter. Maybe you know that. You know the students. Okay? Let us look into data analysis. Okay, so this is the crucial part. Okay, once you have a very good data collected, regardless whether it's from the qualitative sources or the quantitative sources, it doesn't matter depending on your research, right? So the next part that you have to do is to analyze the data, because if you have the data without analyzing, so it's no useful. You need to finish what you have started, okay? You know, like data collections, and then now you have to analyze. So again, in this particular topics, okay, I'm just going to share with you that on the quantitative research, okay, of course that maybe later on the discussion can we open the discussion, because I think some of my colleagues here is doing some experimental studies, okay. Maybe some of you have done experimental studies, okay, and some of you might do using a secondary data instead of primary data like questionnaire, okay. So they might help, okay. We will open the discussion after I finish the presentations, okay. All right, so this is basically that what you should do, all right, for students that embarking themselves into the quantitative research, okay. First, data preparation, okay. Data preparation is actually from the questionnaire, okay. You get the questionnaire. That's why I always ask students that once you get the questionnaire from the respondent, put it in the SPSS, put it in the computer. Don't wait until you get hundreds, okay? Because I mean, key in the data from your questionnaire into the software SPSS, I would say is, okay, maybe one day you can maximum maybe 10. It's not that, unless that you have some research student that you pay that helping you to key in the data. If by yourself, then maybe 5. After that, you're going to get blur, okay? That is just keying the data into the system. So you can imagine if you collect that until 100 or 200 and end up, you said that, oh, I just want to do, you know, I just want to do within 2 days data key in, forget it, okay? Made a lot of mistakes, especially when key in the data. So you must have what do you call it, a time frame, a schedule, okay, so that you can meet your schedule, okay? Because PhD or masters by research is a lonely journey for everyone. You talk to your friend, they might don't understand what you're talking about, okay? Because your research is different from them. You have to talk about family lah, then it will be the same chemistry lah. If you talk about research, and then you will be talking alone, right? Because your research might be different from their research, because you must create some novelty in your research, okay? What is research that you have don't have in other journals or in others? Then if you have that novelty, then it's easier, okay? Some student very easy to get something, right? Even though that, for example, if your research is, I would say, considered very, very latest, good, new, but if you can't get the data, it's no point also. So you must be able to reach the data. I still remember last time one student proposed, okay, is a master student, proposed, oh, sir, I think I want to do, it's about like job satisfaction. No. Employees performance, okay, employee performance, but the respondent is the CEOs. I was like shocked, okay, wow. I said, are you sure you can get the respondent, the CEOs? I said, yeah. Very ambitious kid, students, guys. And then he said, yeah. I can get the respondent, no problem. And then I said, okay, you try first, distribute whether respondent come, I mean, the questionnaire come back to you. And then after distributing the questionnaire for 2 months, you don't even get one. You understand what I mean? Because CEO itself, okay, unless you have some authority to instruct, you all have to answer the questionnaire, okay. You get the ministry's PM ke CM ke bagi surat, you have to the CM letter, whatever, then it's much more easier lah. Other than that, I think it's quite difficult. You know why? Because their staff itself in the organization is suddenly see dia, is hardly see dia boss, big boss. Ini lagi you daripada luar kan. So it should be, you know lah, when you try to come up with your data, make sure that you can access to that. Accessibility is very important. I still remember one of the student. Okay, we just have a discussion. We're not with student. So the student is a master student, OUM student. Well, I've been teaching in the OUM, and then this student intend to do a PhD, and then he want to do about leadership among Chinese Muslim business. I would say businessman. Okay, but he himself is the president of Sabah Chinese Muslim Association. So I said, definitely you can go, because all of them are in your circle, are your friends, you know. So definitely you can get a good respondent. You can even have a session with them. You can even have during the session with all the Muslim association or Muslim managers or what, you can distribute the questionnaire. I mean, it's very easy. Why? Because you are in that particular space, okay. Then it's a bit different. Do you get what I mean? So it's very, very important. No matter how good your research is, all right, if you can't get the data, so it's no point. So you must make sure, when you have a topic, can you get the data that you want to study or not? You must have some views that you'll be able to access the data. Okay, that's about the data. Once you have that, then it's much more easier, okay? All right, when come to the step of data analysis, okay, I'm using SPSS version, okay, I'm not using the smart PLS, okay, so because there will be, I think Dr. Maslan is talking about smart PLS, even this one SPS. I'm just going to give you some ideas, okay, what is SPSS. At least you have some ideas what is SPSS is about. Some student might have zero knowledge on the SPSS, especially on data analysis, okay, I'll tell you. They know a very beautiful from chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Chapter 3, they start because they don't know how to analyze the data. It's a very well-written thesis, okay. When come to chapter 4, they keep quiet. I said, why? I don't even know any single thing about SPSS, how to analyze the data. Then I said, how are you going to do your data? How are you going to do your conclusion later on about to figure out? That's a difficult part, okay. So I give you some ideas here, all right, how to do, but this is a SPSS version. Of course, that I will tell you what is some, because we start with SPSS in 1980s, I think, and then in 2000 we end up with, people talk about simultaneously equation modeling, okay, because the model become complicated, and then some researcher and some company have developed smart PLS, okay, which is smart PLS and Amos, okay. So this is a two software that can cater smart what do you call it? It's not smart PLS, simultaneously equation modelings, okay, SAM, right? So, but it's still valid, okay. So I think some student is still using SPSS and still with their PhD, okay. So that means it's still used, used widely, okay. All right, so when we have the data and we key in the data, the first thing, key in the data in the SPSS, the first thing that we have to do is to clean the data. Okay, as I told you earlier that there are some questions that we receive might have an empty, not answered, okay. So this is the cleaning process that we have to do. We can drop questionnaire that we feel that, I tell you, some respondent, they will just answer number 3, you know. If you have a 5 Likert scale, you know what is Likert scale, right? If you have like disagree, strongly disagree, and then in the middle we have neutral, and then the number 5 will be strongly agreed. Yeah. And then if they want to feel that they just want to answer because you ask them to answer, they're going to put 3. So there is no variance, okay? So this is not good question. So you have to put aside. Okay, this is what you're going to expect. You'll be expecting from your respondent. because you don't have their names. Okay, you can ask them again, right? Especially unless that you have interviewed lah. You interview, you can put aside their name lah. Mungkin lah. Tapi normally what happens is that when we have a questionnaire, their information, especially their names, okay, will be apa ni lah, put confidential lah. Normally it's unknown, okay, because we just want their answers as long as they represent to the organization or represent as your sample, okay. And then we will treat the missing data. The missing data means the data that they don't fill up, okay. Okay, of course that in the SPS, I'll give you the books later on, okay, the e-books, so that is through the Urusetia lah. I will pass to the Urusetia. So you might have a look to read. If you have time, you can read, okay? But you need to read if you do your PhD or your master's in social sciences, okay? I'll give you the very simple, I would say simple book, okay, to understand, okay? Even though that you are not in it onto the SPSS. And then you have to treat the data outlier, you have to treat the data outlier, especially when you have an extra value, okay? Because sometimes this data can make your result not significant. So that's why is that you need to have a big data. I mean, big numbers of data, so that when you omit the data, at least you have a sufficient numbers of sample to be analyzed. And then of course that treatment on multicollinearity. Okay, maybe this is a kind of weird for you because I know that most of you are not statistician, right? So it's a kind of weird for you. What is this multicollinearity? What the heck are you going to do with this? Right? So I understand that one. So we are a student before. So basically student from social sciences, if they can get rid this one, they can get rid. Do this, like for example, history. Okay, like history, you don't have to do with the data analysis most probably, okay? But they just do no data lah, no database. Okay? They just do exploratory, pergi buat apa ni, field work kan, tak ada, you know, you don't have to do all this analysis. Okay. Remember, once you have this data cleaned, okay, in your SPSS or in your any softwares, okay, then the next thing that you do will be the exploratory analysis. Remember, why did we have to do exploratory analysis again? Because even though that the questionnaire that you use is actually used by other researchers earlier in different settings, for example, in the US, in the UK, Australia, but remember, your sample is not Australian, okay? Or your not sample is not American. Your sample will be Malaysian. Understanding on what you want to do might be a little bit different from the US, even though they're talking about the same topic in terms of culture in the organization. So we have to take into consideration of that. This is what we have to do, the explorative factor analysis, EFA. Have you heard the word EFA? Some people said, okay, oh, you don't have to use anymore as factor analysis because questioning is widely used in the US or widely used in the journal. But I believe that you have to do it. That's what you are required to do, pilot studies. You take maybe 20, when you set up your questionnaire, okay, and then what you do basically, all right, you give them the questionnaire to your friends or to your colleagues or whatever, try answers that. Do they understand the question? So this is the most important thing. If they don't understand, that means you are the one that understand the question. So do you think that your result later on in your data analysis will be good? No. So if they understand your question and understand that that question represent the construct or the variable that you ask, then that's the best. But if they themselves don't understand, and then you yourself hardly to understand also, because you just pick from the previous literature and then you put it in your questionnaire, right? And then set up and then give it to them back, then it's going to be very difficult. You must, that's what you need to be guided by your supervisors. You always have to meet your supervisors to see whether the question is appropriately located or not, okay? Because some students, they end up with, let's say, for example, 30 questions. Oh my God, I said, who's going to answer this 30 question for one variables? How do you get this? Okay, I read many articles and then I pick, okay, this article have 5, this article have 7, so it's already 10, right? And then I read 5 articles, so end up with 20, for example, I said. Knows the questions, you know, that is the most important thing. Because the previous one maybe 3, and you'll be surprising that the 3 will be also in the in the latest journals. So instead of using, for example, the 10, you might be using only 7, okay, instead of 10 or 20. Because if I, as a respondent, okay, you give me a questionnaire, 20 pages, I'm going to answer that, okay, forget it. Very good research, answers from your respondent, of giving them 20 page of respondent. Do you think that if you yourself put it yourself in as a respondent, do you think that you want to answer that? You don't have much to answer the 20 page or 15 pages of questionnaire. No? Then you end up with, never mind, tolong the student. You know what happened is that you just tick without reading the question. Tick, 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 tick. Okay, send to the student. And student happy. So what happened is that when you are the student, you're happy because they answered your question. When you analyze, it's a no use. Why? Because it doesn't fall into what your research is all about. So you have to look into it. And then after that, of course, factor analysis is very, very important. I will tell you a little bit step-by-step of factor analysis later on. What is factor analysis? It's all about, and reliability analysis. And after that, then you transform your variable into, your item into variables, okay? But I'm not going to detail on this one, okay? But you need to attend maybe Dr. Jude or Dr. Lim most probably on SPSS, a step-by-step. You require a step-by-step analysis, but I will supply you with ebooks on step-by-step. If you spend time to read the book, definitely you can do better than just listening. Okay? You need to do you need to do hands-on. When you talk about data, you have to do hands-on. You can't get if no hands-on, okay? That's what during my class, I will create a questionnaire, okay? Assuming that this is the questionnaire, the student become the responder. They have to answer the questionnaire. After the answers, okay, let everybody open their SPSS, key in the questionnaire, key in the answers of the questionnaire from all the student. We circulate among the student. Let they see that the process is very tedious actually. But if you know the A to Z process, then it's much more easier to do it, right? Okay. I'll give to the Urusatia. You can get the slide later on. Okay. All right. Of course, after you have completed diagnosing the using the exploratory analysis, then this is the time that you do a data analysis. So this is the end part of your data analysis lah. I mean, your data is clean. I mean, all the variables have been sorted out. Okay, that means not sorry. All the item in the question in the question have been sorted out. Of course, that will be surprising. Okay, there will be some questions that need to be omitted because it doesn't jive together with the item in the variables. Okay, this is what you have to do factor analysis to check what are the item have same intercorrelated, I would say intercorrelated with others, so that their correlation to represent the construct, to represent the latent variable is there. We don't want that satu soalan tu ke laut, okay? Semua soalan ke darat. And then you have to one ke laut, okay? You have to take only those that work together to represent the to represent the variable. So this is what we want, okay, in research, okay? And then all of the thing you need to talk, you need to share, you need to write in your chapters, okay? This is the most important. So when readers or when the examiner read, then they know that the process that you have gone through is not as easy that clicking, and then you come up with data and then you present. That's why sometimes I really mad when the student give back me this analysis. Okay, I said I don't want. You have to come up with a professional table. This one, put it in the appendix, because if I ask you every single numbers in the output of the SPSS, you might be able to answer that. Right? If you ask me now, okay, what is mean by that? I might not be able to answer that. That's why I just put it this and in the appendix on in your last chapter, not last chapter, last page of your thesis. Because the thing that you want to elaborate, that you want to discuss, then you put in there. That's why sometimes I said you must think, and when you read the article, you will see that the researcher or the author will come out with the professional by combining maybe 5-6 tables into one. So it's a very comprehensive until you don't understand. Actually, you can understand it one by one table, but when they compress into one, taking only the information that they believe is very, very important for their discussion in chapter 4, then make yourself that. So I call that as a professional tables, okay? Because combining normally 4 tables into one, and then omitting some of the values, which I think that is no use. I mean, no use in the sense that for my discussion, then make it professional, I would say, okay? All right. So once you have this, then you start with the data analysis. So under the data analysis, and then you start with the descriptive variables and correlation, and then what test that you want to do. Either you want to use independent t-test, okay? So all of these things, you can test all, okay? And some student, okay, do I have to do this? Do I have to do regression? Do I have to ANOVA? Do I have to do chi-squares, okay? Because they're confused, because they don't know what it's all about, okay? So you must remember, go back to your objective, okay? Research in chapter 1. What is your objective, okay? What are your objective? And then check this objective, what test is appropriate to be used, okay? So the book that I give you later on will tell you that based on your research question, what test that you should do, okay? Buku ni bagus, very simple to understand lah, so that you don't miss out. When you do your research later on, you present your data, you blah, 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 presenting your data, end up with, it's not answering your. So it's very important, because you need to have synchronization between chapter 1, chapter 2, methodology, and your finding, and of course the conclusion, to conclude the whole chapters of your research. Is it all right? Okay. All right. And then of course this is just an example of the output from the. I will show it to you later on. Okay. Okay. Factor analysis, basically some what do you call this, some definition what is factor analysis is all about, okay? So why we have to do factor analysis? Because we try to see question that you collect from the literature reviews, okay, put it in the questionnaire. Will it be used? I mean, will be all used for your research? I mean, data analysis, okay? So of course, in this particular factor analysis, so basically to reduce the large numbers of related variables to more manageable numbers, okay? You put 10, maybe the most appropriate one is 5. It's okay. 5 for one variable is acceptable, isn't it? Rather than 30 in one variable, it's going to kill yourself. Okay. Definitely, they're going to have many unknown what do you call this, unknown factors later on. Kepala lah. That's what before, when you come out with your questioning, it's very, very important you look back your question, discuss with your supervisors, okay? Does this appropriate or not? Okay. Sources is very important. Where do you get that? Because some students, they try to create, okay? Oh, saya buat sendirilah, senang lagi kan. Then you buat sendiri, there will be a lot of waste. Banyak dia punya tu lah. You have to do, you know, like back-to-back translation. Okay, you have to confirm whether that actually represents a lot of things lah that you need to apa ni lah, to do before distributed to distributed to your respondents. Okay. So basically, what we do, if you use the factor analysis, you are using exploratory factor analysis. I asked the student last time, okay, during their viva, okay, are you conducting exploratory factor analysis? I know their answers, and then they confused. I'm not sure whether I'm doing explorative factor analysis or confirmatory factor analysis. They're sure. Okay, so as a student, you need to have the ideas, okay? When you do factor analysis, you must understand why you have to do it. Not just simply, oh, I'm just doing because the senior is also doing. So you must understand the reason behind that, okay? So if you think that you're not sure that that's the factor, then you explore the factor. If, let's say, the factors fall into that particular category, for example, you have 5 questions, you put into the factor, the 5 question is come into one factors, then basically it's confirming that your data too is very good, isn't it? So of course that when we talk about confirmatory factor analysis, researcher or student that doing smart PLS, basically they know that that particular variable sorry, that particular question represent that particular variable, and then they just ship. As smart pairs is much more easier, okay? Much more easier compared with exploratory factor analysis. Factor analysis or SPSS. Okay, so you should attempt both lah. Some students they will do both because the basis will be from the SPSS. Okay, you need the data to be keyed in the SPSS or in the Excel CVX types, and then after that, then you can import the data into Smart PLS. Okay. So that what we use, and then learning because every year that they keep updating informations about smart PLS also. Okay. Why that we still use it? This one I've answered just now. Okay, why we still use exploratory factor analysis? Because since most of the measures the item or the question that we use were adapted and modified from various resources. Okay, so that's what we really need to do factor analysis again, right? So, and then we are testing them in a different setting. Remember, a study that you've seen in journal, maybe in the US, okay? So now you adapting that particular question in Malaysia, for example, even though selling the same branded, store image, okay, or any other thing, but remember, is in Malaysia. So setting different, right? Because some student I saw that they do Malaysian case studies, okay? I mean, in the context of Malaysian companies, Malaysian organizations. So you need to require to do the exploratory factor analysis. Of course, that under the factor analysis, this is the thing that you should understand, okay? Because they will give you the result. I'm just showing you this one. Okay, later on maybe if you do factor analysis, then at least you know, okay, where to get this, where the resources come from, okay? So you have to look into a sick assumption that need to be fulfilled, okay? So I'll give you the books, okay? Hayes, okay, 2016-2010. So basically this is the books, okay? I've mentioned this is the minimum requirements that you should have, okay, to satisfy of your data accuracy, sample accuracies, okay? So, but never mind, this one later on, I'll give it to you so that you have some ideas. It's because it's no point for me to explain to you. Because this one you need to run data, then you can see that your results, okay? And then this is also from the book, okay, what is the cutoff point of loading base in the sample? Okay, so if let's say your sample size above 200, so your loading will be just 0.4, and then but if your sample is less, then the loading will be very high. Loading mean here, if let's say for example the item or the question to represent the questionnaire does not meet this loading, let's say you have 50 questionnaires, contoh lah, tapi jarang lah ada student buat 50 question, normally like 150. Let's say lah 50. So you must make sure all your item must be exceeding 0.75. Otherwise, it's not acceptable. You have to delete the question. You can imagine if you keep deleting, then end up with no question. Remember, that's what is very important for you to have a significant numbers of sample size. Okay, 200, 300. Okay, later on maybe you can talk to your supervisors. Okay, what is the appropriate numbers for you? Because there will be a ways of selecting these big numbers. Okay, ada cara dia. Okay, so some using the new methods. Okay, but I still prefer to use the old method, looking into the population and what will be the appropriate numbers of the sample size. I prefer to that ways, okay? Because even though, for example, here you have 350, you normally distributed more than 350, maybe double than this 350, because you are expecting that the written numbers later on, the written questionnaire later on will be not 700. Maybe you can get 350, maybe you can get 400, which is sufficient enough, right? But if you're distributing 350, end up with 50, then it kill yourself lah. It's not enough numbers for your analysis, because if you have large numbers, then you can take anything, any question that have a lower loading above 40, then can be taken into consideration as one of your item to represent the variables. Okay? Yalah, the more the merrier lah. Okay, kalau you ada banyak lagi bagus lah, because in quantitative, I've been confused. In quantitative, normally our finding later on can be generalized. You know generalized mean? For example, if you study about utility companies, then you can use your finding into the utility companies. This is what I mean by generalizations. Okay, if your studies in government federal officers lah, for example, then you can generalize that finding into different government, because we are using same HR methods, GPA methods, you know, all this sort of thing. So boleh di-generalizekan. Okay, that means your finding, if you really do it, and then can be applied to other organization if they want to use that. For example, why staff the turnover in the organization is too big, too large. Okay, orang berhenti terlalu banyak. Why? And then when you do these studies, and then suddenly that particular organization also doing the same businesses, and then you can figure out that it's almost the same. That means they don't have to do the research again. They can just beli ke, pinjam ke you punya study itu to improve the management or to improve the organizations. Okay, this is what we mean by generalizations. Okay, it can be used. So this basically we want. Your research is usable, your research is beneficial to organization, not just on the shelf. You know what in Malaysia? You finish your PhD, put it on the shelf, berabuk-rabuk there, and then it's never being referred. That's what we encourage students, okay? When they completed their certain chapter, we ask them to present. Bit by bit, not the whole thesis you present lah. Not that you don't expose the whole thesis, you know? Like for example, a very simple example bah. You know, you want to selak kain, you jangan selak terus, malu lah kan, selak sikit-sikit saja. You understand what I mean? Selak sikit chapter 1, okay, sudah chapter 2. So at the end of the period, once you completed, you can selak habis because everything is already in the, people is reading that. This is what we want. Maybe you can come out with like 5 or 6 journal based on your single thesis, okay? 6 articles, scopus or what, okay? I'm not sure that the requirements of the university that require students to complete their articles publication. Okay, maybe 3 or 4. I'm not sure. But as for my master student, we have 2 journals, 1 conferences, and yeah, something like that. But for masters, for PhD, maybe more than that, right? And some other university required for it to publish at least 2 or 3 in the Scopus Index. Okay, you start small. Okay, not necessarily the I have to do ni first year kan. First year pening-pening. Okay, tak apalah. 1.5 years. Okay, you try to come out a simple research. Okay, present it, and then if once you present it, try to publish. You know, I have the feel first. Okay. Don't lah nak era terus lah, nak apa ni Scopus, nak index sampai apa yang gila-gila punya kan. No need, okay? Just step by step you know macam baby lah. Baby pun keluar terus, bukan dia terus berjalan, right? Bercakap kan. So they also have some step. Within 3 years, you can definitely publish in a good journals, okay? If you passion lah, okay? Sometimes presenting in the good journals, it requires years. Mungkin bila you nak final year, nanti dia publish mungkin lepas you graduate. It's okay. People is reading your work rather than putting on the shelf, book, right? So this is the important thing. This is what the supervisors want. You keterlihatan lah. University terlihat, supervisor terlihat, and student definitely will be terlihat. You get what I mean or not? Everybody know that, oh, that's that particular research. Okay, you can get the article from, let's say, journal of marketing. The journal of marketing is top 1 marketing journal in marketing area most probably. Yeah. All right. So this is some of the result of the fact analysis, but I'm just going to try to you can have later on. Okay. This is just some definition and some matrices that normally come out when you analyze the data using so later on you can have, I think you have done this one in the class also, so just have a look. Okay, how the Q1 Q2 is a question. Okay, so it's a question. So from here in the cumulative, for example, if it is less than 0.5, so normally we will delete the question. It's not good for our item lah, basically for to represent the variables. Okay? And this is the eigenvalues. When we do the fact analysis, they will say that, oh, based on the question that you put in my in the what do you call it, the fact analysis, only 4 variables that you can come up with. Okay, then you have to check back into the literature review. That's why I said when you give rubbish, okay, in the data, during the data mining, when you process, you will get rubbish too. You get what I mean? So you give rubbish when you collect the data, and then when it come out, there's also rubbish. Then it's very hardly to say that sometimes you can't even use the questionnaire. Then you have to redo it again. Okay, so must be very careful. Okay, data collection is very, very important to make sure that your data analysis is beautiful. Okay, I mean, it's good lah to represent your research. All right. This is the result. I'm just want to show you, okay, but we don't do calculation here. You're gonna have your own different skill required later on. Maybe there will be some series just study about SPSS, MAT-PLS. I think we have quite numbers of experts. Okay, Dr. Limada, and then what else? Dr. Mazalan, Dr. Jude. Okay, so they're all considered expert in that particular software. Okay, so you can learn from them. I think definitely they're going to have a class so that you can join them to learn if you are into the factor analysis. Sorry, if you are into quantitative research. Okay, I'm going to skip this one, okay, because I don't think so you're required to have this. Okay, this is the one that I've showed you earlier. All right, and then after that you will do some reliability tests. So this is the most important thing. Okay, once you clean the data and then you put it in the factor analysis, and then you find out that there are some questions, there are some items that you need to be deleting, then after that you're gonna have a very good combination which have the same, almost the same correlation to represent one variables. Then after that you're gonna test the Colombo alpha. Have you heard the word Colombo alpha before? Ada ke? So this is the old-fashioned one lah. I've learned this ways. Okay, so you do the reliability test. Okay, so to look into the consistency, internal consistency reliabilities. Okay, of course that you should refer now is like 0.8 if the questionnaire is already known. It's not new, so maybe 0.8 is acceptable, or 0.7 is acceptable by Nunuli, I think, if not mistaken. Okay, so you need that particular, because research what do you call this, examiner will try to see bukan salah, okay, but try to see, because this is like masters, but you know, when you have that master's degree, you actually masters in the area, or PhD. I mean, you are solid grounded in that particular area. When people ask you, you'll be able to answer. Itu kalau kita buat sendirilah. Kalau let's say you buy your what do you call this, the PhD what? If you have a colleague, for example, they should be able to talk about areas that they do. Do you understand what I mean? So that's what, as a student, so you try to understand your area. So when people talk, you can talk more about the areas because you know better than them. Okay? Begitulah. All right. So this is an example of the apa ni lah. Once you check the reliability, then you transform them into a variable. So this is the one that we actually use for your analysis. So we put aside already all the question item by item tadi, and then now we do the analysis. So this is the most important thing. Once you have this represents your framework in your chapter. How many variables do you have? How many independent variables do you have? So what is the relationship between your independent variable to dependent variables? Okay, so it's after this one. And then when you do the analysis, it's also based on the input that you do. Even though, for example, like this, you have sampai 30 questionnaires, but after the process of cleaning and refining, then you only get 5, which really represent your variable or your research for one particular variables. Okay, so it's very, very important. Okay. Next. So if you look into my last apa ni so we have done actually up to here. All right, so now this data analysis, so we have a lot of tests that we should do, right? So what is the appropriate test that we should do for our research? Different people or different students might have different testing, okay, depending on their research objective. Okay, so but I'm just going to give you some ideas. Okay, if your research it's about, in your objective, comparing mean, for example, comparing mean. Okay, you want to see either whether the means of leadership different from X to Y, for example, X to Y, then you use independent t-test. This is what I mean, okay? If let's say you're comparing, for example, more than one, let's say, for example, you're comparing kalau selalu macam comparing more than one, such as selalu orang main golf lah, kayu golf tu, apa dipanggil tu? Golf club kan? How far they can land, I mean, different golf club might push farther than the other golf club. I don't know, I don't play golf, okay? Then you are comparing different stick lah, I would say, golf club. Brand A, brand B, brand C, looking into the distance, okay? So you might use more than, comparing more means, then most probably you can use a one-way ANOVA. Okay? So macam tu lah lebih kurang, okay? So, but, sorry, most of the student basically using investigating relationships, okay? This is what actually most of the student is doing. The degree of relationship, okay? Using relationship as the make predictions, okay? So either they use regression or multiple regression or hierarchical regression, name it, or now they have with moderator, with mediators, okay, all this sort of thing. This basically talking about investigating relations. So you look back into your objective, research objective, and then you can definitely match what type of data and what type of analysis that you should be conducting. Okay? And then of course, when you do a categorical data, so basically most students use a chi-square test. Categorially macam ni lah. You want to compare, for example, male, female in terms of leadership. So no need to use others. You can use chi-square test. It's simple because they are category. Or for example, any categorical variable such as your race, bangsa, okay? Bangsa, Cina, Melayu, dah ada 4-5, then you can use a chi-square independent test. So this is a common test that normally most student is doing, okay? For their research, because sometimes assessor will ask, okay, what is the appropriate test for this objective, and then you should be able to quantify it, okay, which one, okay? So this one is actually available in the books, okay? Okay, this is the book that I recommended for you to read while you are a PhD student, okay? This SPSS Survival Manual, which I consider a very good books, a basic books on SPSS, how to handle the SPSS, okay? It's very, very easy. You can get the software from the universities, okay? You as a student, you can get free, okay? University normally have a license for that. So get the license one, okay? As long as you bring your laptop to the JTMK, the multimedia's office, and then they can install for you. Oh, now it's very easy. I think you can install, through your computers, or you can ask the IDEO. I don't know how they do it, but they do it for me. Okay, I'm just telling them that my access number, and then they will do for me. Okay, well, during this PKP lah. But maybe if PKP over, then you can bring your laptop. Make sure that your laptop is new lah. If it is the old one, then it's going to hang because it requires big storage lah. But it's very powerful tools lah, and normally is used by many universities, okay? And this one is also good books, okay? I give you, don't worry, I give you the ebooks of this. I give to the secretariat so that you can just have a look, okay? The discovering statistics using SPSS, because today I'm just going to tell you about the SPSS, how that we analyze data using SPSS. Of course, that there will be a lot of methods. I didn't mention about for science, for economics, they use eViews, Tatas, okay? So that is more on like for their data, secondary data. But for questionnaire, normally that we use SPSS and Smart Palace at the moment, or AMOS, okay? But AMOS is not as famous as SPSS at the moment. Smart Palace and SPSS. SPSS is considered as generic lah. That everybody still use. I still use this one, okay? Beside Smart Palace software, okay? Because this one university have, so that I don't have to pay. But for the Smart Palace, I have to pay, and it's expensive, okay? Last time it's free. Well, they're introducing that, but now a lot of postgraduate students using that, then they start charging them. Okay? then, but you still can get free for version 2, but version is still considered updated one. It's more on the icon base. It's much more easy for students. And this one also very good books research. I used to do my master's degrees, research method for businesses by Uma Sekaran. Okay, I give you the, if you want, I can give you the the what do you call this? I got this also from professors. Okay, so which is illegal, bahkan. Tapi for not for distributing, but it's for knowledge base. So this maybe not the new version, but the content is almost the same. Same thing with the multivariate data analysis, okay, by Hay. That most of the quotation that I used earlier is actually based from this book. Okay, so if you're still confused about research that you want to do and then you're working in the organization, okay, you go to this book, Research Methodology for Business. All right, and then you go to page if you want later on, so that I can tell you that there are one example, okay, a very good example on research done in Scotia enterprise, okay, in page 309. So you read that one. The study is actually for students, okay, how that they pick issues from the organization and they interviewed the staff, because they can't interview those living people, right? Because the president feel that why that my staff is leaving, are they not satisfied with the management or why? But of course that the management the CEOs want to figure out why, so they employed few staff students that doing a research, you will allow, okay, and try to come out with the reports, okay, why that people leaving the organization. Okay, this is very interesting. Then they come up with the objective, and then after that they come out with it's very simple one, okay, they come up with the data analysis, and then after that they present to the board that why that people, and then the finding found out that people are treated inequality in the organization, which is you cannot just simply, oh, in my organization now, some of the staff is treated inequality without any proof. You can't say that, okay? So you have to conduct a research first. If you found out that it is treated inequality, then this you're supposed to give to the management, so that the managers should be fair with all the staff, You have to do that. If you want to study about the organization, but you must get approval from your top management first lah, before you conduct the study lah. If not, then you'll be later on, lah kan, organization. So if they ask you to conduct, but some transparent organization, they want it to know that why that their stuff like this, why that they don't come to work, So there must be a reason. All right, and then this multivariate data also is very good books. Okay, so I have the soft copy for that one. Nanti I pass to the I pass to the okay, for you to see lah, if you want lah. All right. And then I'm showing you something. Okay, I know that when you're writing, sometimes some students have difficulties in doing academic writings. Okay, so they have a difficulties in academic writing, because academic writing is different from writing a novel. Okay? I know that some students start writing like a novel. They are very good. They are very good. I cannot cannot doubt on that lah. They're very good in writing. But when you read the journal, when you article, so it's different from reading a newspaper. Okay? Journal, first page you already have die already. Barring sudah. Okay? Newspaper you can read page by page, right? Sometimes 5 page you need maybe 5 days to read. Sometimes. Because why? Because the language that they use. Okay. So this this academic Phasebank ni, okay, which is set up by University of Manchester, use a lot of, but this is not plagiarism, okay, but this is widely used by PhD students. Okay, it can be like chapter 1, that how that you should start your writings, okay, because sometimes we have a difficulty. For example, okay, if you click, like say later on, maybe you can have this, you can just search Google in the you just put in the search Manchester Phasebank, so automatically you can go to this particular page. Okay, so once you search, then this will be introducing work, which is chapter 1, Referring to source, which is literature review. Describing method is chapter 3. Report result, chapter 4. And this will be chapter 4 together, and then the conclusion. So they will tell you, okay, this website will tell you what is the appropriate, what are the verb to be used, okay, in order for you to link or to describe something in a different ways, but in the academic ways, okay. In the US, in widely used in the UK, okay, most of the students will start, because sometimes to write one sentence in one day is very, very hard, even though you have read already 10 articles, okay? Very hard, right? And then you end up when you have the article next to you, you start writing what the article is writing. But it's good, at least you write something, and then you read some more, then you keep changing. So at the end of the period, they will be different from the whole articles. This is your ideas, okay? But you need to start writing lah. If not, then the writing is not going to appear lah in your thesis, right? So you need to keep writing from time to time. But sometimes people said, never mind, just write what you have read, just write back. Okay, later on you read, refine. So at the end of the period, you'll be surprising, oh, I got 5 pages already of my own writing after looking at different sources. But don't forget to put the references, because sometimes lupa, you forgot to, every time that you read, this what you must mastering, like Mendeley, Mendeley desktop. Do you know what is Mendeley desktop? You need to master that, or eNote, okay, something like that. So it's make your life easier. Or you have also to master the word, the use of word, for example, in the Microsoft Word, because Microsoft Word can tell you using the big letter, small letter. So because otherwise it's going to be very tedious lah. Maybe other lecturer later on will talk about using Word, okay, because it's very, very important for the students, okay, when come to thesis writings, okay. Okay, this will be my last later on you can just go to this web page, okay, www.phasebank.manchester.ac.uk, right? And the last one is very, very important, okay, academic integrity, okay. Academic integrity means honesty and responsibility in scholarship. Intellectual contribution from others must be consistently and responsibly acknowledged, okay. Academic work completely in any other ways is forbidden. So very, very important, okay. We don't just simply use, that's why I said you can use their papers, okay, you can use the studies, you can use the questionnaire, but do some source so that people know that you are not copying, you are not just taking without any consent. Of course, that you are not going to call the author to get the consent that, oh, I want to put, no, it's enough with just put the source, that people know that you got that from the sources, okay, the refined sources, okay, very, very important. About your data, don't answer your questionnaire by yourself, okay. I know that some students, they will sit under the tree, all right, and then they start putting themselves, okay, as A, they will answer blah 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 blah. So you must remember, okay, one brain doesn't work for 100 questionnaires, okay. You will be surprising that it will be repeating again. So that's what you really need to do, especially on data collection. You really need to do, who is your respondent. You must understand who is your respondent. Very, very important. I know that it's going to be very difficult to get your respondent, but once you get the right respondent, then your life will be easier when it comes to the data analysis. So the most important thing that you should do, right? All right. So with that, I think I finished. So if you have any questions, so maybe I'll be able to answers. If not, then my friend is actually in this. There are some lecturers also may help me to answer the questions. Okay. So this is just a sharing. Okay, everything is from me. Okay, I quote some of the photos from the internet. Okay, I'll be given. Yeah, I was given by Miss Alice, Dr. I think about like 2 weeks. Okay, asking me to share that about the data, about anything that I can share with the students. So I thought it's a very, very nice to see everyone. Okay, we haven't seen, actually, I haven't seen, I think, most all of you, right, around during this pandemic time, right? Okay, so maybe, okay, Elizabeth asked me, let me take a picture. Everybody show their picture. I mean, open their camera so that you know, we can take picture together. Record purposes that we are actually conducting this apa ni event already. Boleh kan, guys? Right. So let open your screen. Yes. Good. Okay. Yeah, Elizabeth pula. Elizabeth, you take it, right? Okay, how about yes? Dia tak datang ni. Okay, good. So at least wow. Kai pun ada. Alright. So how about the rest? Who knows that later on we meet in the faculties, okay, then I know you know me, okay, it's make your life easier. Sir Amir also here, okay, so how about the rest? So you can chat me, okay. Hi Wendy, my students, okay.
Hello.
Hello, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, good. So if you have any problem, you can just not text me. Text me normally I don't answer because a lot of texts from the students, but you can just email me. Okay, maybe if let's say the pandemic is over, you can come and see us in the faculties. Okay, we try to help. Okay, we try to help students that having problems. Okay, Sir Amir also there. Okay, he's expert on experimental studies. Okay, experimental study. So you can ask Sir Amir. Okay, who else here? Lecturer saya tak nampak lah. So I mean you can see most of the lecturers. Okay, on
just still learning bah.
But again, I see your eyes still sparkling. Okay, no worries. Okay, you definitely can do. Okay, either 2 years or 3 years. Okay, guys. So, Eli ambil ni Eli. Yang ini mungkin sleeping beauty. Okay. Smile.
2, smile. Okay, done.
Do you have any question? Okay, do you have, guys? Question maybe if not now, okay, I know if not now, maybe it's a bit technical for you to understand at this moment. Okay, maybe next time we can meet again, okay? Because yeah, we are in the universities, okay? So anytime you can approach us. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think you make it very clear that we must be able to answer the examiner why we pick the method and to quantify the analysis. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think like what Wendy is doing research on tourism, right? So Wendy is doing a mixed method, but heavily on the qualitative research rather than on for the rest of you. Okay, so she's maybe only required 5% to complete her PhD. Okay, so is in a good shape now. Okay, we are refining certain chapters and then try to hopefully by end of next month most probably we try to fasten her her Viva hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
So how about the rest? Yeah. Okay. How about the rest, guys? Ada apa-apa lagi? Kalau tak ada, then can we end the session? So maybe yeah, we end the session. So maybe we meet again in different avenue lah. I would say, okay. Yeah. All right. So I think that's all. Thank you very much for your times. Okay. All right. So okay, bye.